first of 5 tests at the Gabba. And I don't know if you have heard, but Justin Langer, he's been very outspoken on a number of things. Mostly, though, not impressed at all. Not impressed in the least in the way that former keeper and captain Tim Payne has been treated in the wake of his sexting scandal. Let's hear from Langer first.
He's one of my really close friends and someone I admire enormously. He's probably, certainly in this generation of players, he's one of the best people I've met in the game of cricket. And so, as I said, he's been our captain for a long time. He and I have been through a journey like we have with all this group. I think when I saw him, he's obviously shattered with what's happened because he's been such an exemplary figure in Australian cricket for the last 4 years particularly. His life's changed, obviously. So, but you have to ask him how he's going. All I know, it was important to go and see him. We talk about looking after our boys, having each other's backs, and it was a no-brainer for me to go and see him. I'm not sure I've seen the end of him, but we'll wait and see. That'll be his decision. We live in a world of perfectionism, don't we? We're a very judgmental society. And as I said, my very first press conference, when I was asked about Steve Smith and David Warner and Cameron Bancroft, there's not one person who's asking questions here or who's on the camera there, or who is listening to this, or who is watching this, who hasn't made a mistake in their life. There's not a single person. And our captain, one of the best, made a mistake and he's paying a heavy price for it. And what I continually see in this job, and I see it in the society we live in, is it can be brutal, but you learn your lessons, but we live in an unforgiving society, and that's a real shame.
It is a shame, but that's the way it is, and there's Justin Langer not holding back. I can see quite a few hands up. He who hasn't sinned, throw the first stone. My hand's up. Justin, your hand's up, and all of our listeners, their hands up, including our next guest, and that's Andrew Menzel from Cricket Unlimited podcast. Andrew, thanks for joining the show. You can put your hand down now.
G'day, Chris. How are you?
Good, mate. Hey, it's been a crazy build-up to the Ashes, and we're only a few days away. I mean, my goodness, there's been some drama.
Yeah, there's been drama occurring for both teams. England engulfed in a racism scandal, and Australia have had a sexting scandal. So it hasn't been a lot of talk about the cricket, but I think we're in for a ripping series on the field. I think the quality of cricket's going to be exceptional, and I think a lot of people are selling this English team a bit short. I think they could punch above their weight, so to speak.
Justin Langer was very, cards close to chest on team selections, but everywhere we read, it seems to be that Mitchell Starc will be there for the Gabba Test, and Travis Head over Khawaja. Is that how you expect it to play out?
Yeah, that seems to be the way the selectors are going. It seems to be that they're going to give Starc a chance to get into the series, and he performed so well with the pink ball, which is the second test. So I think they're hoping that if he can start well at the Gabba and then take that form into the Adelaide Test, Australia have got a real weapon in the armoury. And I think they're just banking on the younger player with Travis Head. I think it's clearly a very tough decision for George Bailey and the selectors between Khawaja and Head. But I guess if you're a selector, when you're faced with those line ball things, you usually go with the younger player. So they've gone with Head.
It's a position, the 5... Head's been there. Khawaja's been there for longer. We've never really had someone in the last 5 years or more that's locked that down and made it their own.
No, the middle order's really sort of changed a lot over the last few years, and that's been one of the real areas of concern for Australia, is trying to get some stability in that 5 and 6 position. So they seem to have answered one question. They've got Cameron Green in at 6, who's playing exceptionally well in domestic cricket, and seems to be someone that will just get better and better with the bat and ball at test level. And they're just looking for that last piece of the puzzle. Labuschagne's emergence in the last 2 years has solved the number 3 position. So when you've got Labuschagne at 3, Smith at 4, that's a pretty handy 3 and 4. So then it's just they need someone at 5 who can come in and stabilise and average about sort of mid-40s at test level.
So we pretty much know, we know who's keeping. Alex Carey, we know Starc is in, we know Head is in, we know all that. The only question now, I guess, is the 5th test. It doesn't look like it can possibly be in Perth.
No, it would seem after Mark McGowan's comments during the week that won't be happening. The real problem for the Ashes Test is not just the actual cricketers and getting exemptions for them, but it's all the other stuff like the TV broadcasts and the radio broadcasts. And there's just not enough people there to even get that up and running. So I think we'll need to see some alternatives floated up. And I'd actually like to see them go with a big venue like the SCG or the MCG. I think cricket has been really had a tough couple of years with COVID. The bottom line, a lot of money going out the door to keep these bio bubbles. If you can make an extra 10 million on the gate at a big venue, I think you've got to do that ahead of Hobart.
Well, I agree. I must admit I'm a little bit surprised that Tasmania had the gumption, if you like, to throw their hat back in the ring after all that had just transpired with them being highly critical of Cricket Australia and Tim Payne and the whole situation. But they were still in the fight and still are in the fight as well. But I agree with you. I think it's got to be Sydney or Melbourne, and I'd love it to be Sydney. But if we're going to go on capacity, well, it's a good chance Melbourne will get it.
Yeah, I think so. But I would be very worried if they decided to make the fifth test a pink ball test. I understand, again, if you're looking at the bottom line, then there'd be more revenue advertising-wise if they did go for a day-night test. But yeah. I do think that gives England too much of an advantage for that final test. We know how good Jimmy Anderson is with the pink ball. We saw it last time. And I just don't think we'd want to give them a little advantage in that last test, especially if it's still alive. And, they could sneak a win under lights. That'd be a disaster.
Yes, I know. Okay, how old is he now? He must be about 50, is he? 60, Jimmy Anderson, but he can still swing it.
Oh, I don't know how old he is. I think he's, born just before World War II. But, you're right. He is a master craftsman. And the English attack actually has some pretty astute bowlers in there. You've got Anderson, Stuart Broad. Between them, they've got 1,000 international wickets plus. And then you add in Ollie Robinson, who's a tall, quick like Josh Hazlewood. I think he'll be a handful on the Aussie pitches with the extra bounce. And then you've got Mark Wood, who was giving a bit of stick to the baggy green during the week. So I'm sure he'll fire up with the new ball at some stage. So, yeah, they could knock a few Aussie batters over cheaply for sure.
All right. I'm talking to Andrew Menzel, by the way, of Cricket Unlimited, the podcast.
Unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
Cricket
Sorry,
Unfiltered.
did I say unlimited before? I think I did. Jeez,
you're having my co-host on later on, Julissa Apps.
I know.
I believe she's coming on as well. So
she's my co-host.
Cricket Unfiltered.
She's my co-host, Andrew. She's my co-host. She's very good. Very good. Knows her stuff. She's out there at the Bathurst, so I hope I can find her. She was enjoying the...
I hope you can hear her.
Yes, that too. Well, she was going to dive into a tent out there of some family she didn't even know. I said, just be careful. Just be careful doing that. Just quickly, mate, on the Cricket Unfiltered. Okay, Cricket Unfiltered, the podcast there. So the 11th edition of the Big Bash, it all starts tonight at the SCG, weather permitting. Sixers against Melbourne Stars, and I think Sixers have the wood over the Stars, certainly in recent years.
Yeah, it's a blockbuster to start the tournament off. You've got the Sixers looking for a three-peat to just have an incredible run if they can do it. And then they're up against the star-studded Melbourne Stars lineup that last year crashed out early and didn't make the finals. So they come in with a lot of pressure, but they do have, World Cup winners like Zampa, Stoinis and Maxwell. So it's going to be a ripping game tonight. I expect the Sixers will do well this tournament. But, the Stars are the sort of team, when they get on a bit of a run, they're hard to stop. So, really good match to start the tournament at the SCG.
And just quickly, mate, there's a few English stars as well that will light up the stage, so to speak.
Yeah, the Sydney Sixers have signed a few English players. So they've got Tom Curran. They've added Chris Jordan this week, who's replacing Carlos Brathwaite. And then James Vince, who was the player of the match in the final last year and an exceptional batter. So, it's a very Pommy-influenced side for the Sydney Sixers. They haven't made any other changes from the premiership winning team last year. So they've put faith in them. The old stages like Dan Christian and Steve O'Keefe. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Andrew Menzel, mate, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. From Cricket Unfiltered podcast. You can find that wherever you get your good podcasts. Enjoy the rest of the day, mate, and thanks for joining us here on Sports Central.
Thanks, Chris. Good luck with Julissa.
Thank you. A break and back with more.